Hi, I'm Mary Lindsay Wilson, and welcome to the Lone Star Dowsers January 2025 program. And we have the wonderful astrologer Shannon Gill with us here tonight. Um, and Shannon is going to, we all know that 2025 promises to have lots of change. So Shannon is going to translate really what lies ahead for us. But I've got a few announcements that I'm going to make first, and then we can get down to the juicy stuff and dive in. So welcome to everybody who is here and tuning in. We're happy to have you. And if you're tuning in later on the replay, we're happy that you're tuning in. So I first want to say thank you for those of you that are able to donate to the Lone Star Dowsers. It helps cover expenses and our Zoom and just the cost of all the things that have make this possible. So, and if you have not donated and you would like to, we've got on our the newsletter links to PayPal, or if you want to send a check, the address is there. So we will receive your money in whatever form that you would like to send it. So thank you. And also, I wanted to let folks know that this coming Saturday, I'm having an Envision your 2025. So it's going to be a fun process where we acknowledge where we've been and do a release ceremony and be able to focus and get some clarity to create our best year yet. So, and to ride these waves of change. So this is just what it feels like to me. It promises to be a very different year. So I think if we have an idea, like a map where we want to go, things happen better. So if you want to join me for the Envision Your Year workshop, it will be online and in person, and if you're in Houston. So it's that information is also in the newsletter. You can reach out to me at mary@wholelifedesign.net. Let's see. We also have some announcements. If you want to join the weekly dowsing groups, the Tucson Dowsers meet every Tuesday at 8, and they are helping to provide relief with the weather for fires, droughts, heat waves, floods, snowpocalypse, you name it. So that we appreciate them, and if you ever feel called in, it's very powerful. I know that we definitely created a shift in Florida. And there's a Dows for the Planet on Thursday nights, and this is hosted by our friends in Australia, Heather Wilkes and Francis Peterson. So they douse for healing Australia and beyond. So I think that's all our announcements. Anyway, if you have questions, you can put them in the chat. But let me get to the introducing Shannon. So Shannon lives in Wimberley, Texas, for those of you that's kind of the hill country. And she is an amazing being who weaves together evolutionary astrology, Buddhist philosophy, and Jungian psychology to create really profound experiences for individuals and groups. She's got a degree in Buddhist psychology and dance therapy from Naropa University. She holds professional certifications from the Archetypal Academy and the complete course of Evolutionary Astrology, as well as advanced training from the Lotus Energy Institute Mystery School. And as a Kalachakra Yoga teacher, Shannon integrates the principles of sacred emotional embodiment into her transformative work. She also is a past president of the Astrological Society in Austin. And in 2005, she founded the Rhythm Sanctuary. It's an ecstatic dance movement in Colorado, and it's evolved into a celestial embodiment of movement practice offered at astrology conferences. And together with her partner, Russell, I'm going to give it a try, Russell von Ohlhausen.
Perfect.
They co-founded ASTRAM Alliance, which is their teaching platform where they offer astrology courses, workshops, and spiritual mentorship. And they also operate the Shift Foundation, which is their 501c3 that is dedicated to supporting the health, cohesion, and spiritual evolution of community through mind, body, spirit, unification, and frequency attunement. So that's a mouthful, but welcome, Shannon. We are very excited that you're here.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. And hello to all of you amazing star beings on the planet. It's definitely going to be a fun night and a fabulous year. I'm excited to share. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and if anybody has questions, if you'll just put them in the chat, and Shannon has got kind of a program she's going to take us through, and then we can have some time for questions at the end. So Shannon, how did you even get your start into astrology?
You know, I was asked that question earlier today, actually, and my answer was like, I think I've been doing some form of mystical work for many lifetimes, like many of us, right? And finding astrology really helped to decode a lot of the intensity that I experienced as a young person. My life was sort of in this incarnation, I was thrust into the underworld very young. And so my own journey to sanity, healing, evolution came through all the ways. I mean, you read all the things that I've sort of found to help myself to evolve, whether it was the dance or the Buddhist psychology to learn to work with the thoughts and the mind. And then I had my very first official astrology reading on my 30th birthday. Actually, I was already done the Buddhist psychology, and I was already a counselor. And it totally changed my life, and I felt so seen. And this person ended up being my teacher afterwards. He helped me to reconceptualize and recontextualize all the intensity that I had been through. Because when people used to look at my chart, you know, as a young person, you share charts, and I was always an enthusiast and a seeker. People would gasp when they would look at my chart because I have 5 planets in the 8th house. And it always really scared me, you know, and I had had a lot of intensity. I lost my father of AIDS, and I watched all his friends die of AIDS in the 80s in Houston. And then my aunt embezzled my trust fund, and my mother was sick with addiction. So it was like one thing after the other. And I had this incredible teacher basically recontextualized that all of these experiences were part of my initiation. When he saw my chart, he's like, wow, you have so much power. You're an alchemist, you're a healer. And with my 0 degrees ascendant, you know, he saw me as this sort of voice of the new age in a lot of ways. And so it was just sort of a sequence of things. And after that day of my first reading, I enrolled in his school at the Archetypal Academy in Boulder, Colorado. And it's been my primary tool ever since.
Yeah, what a powerful initiation. So I can see how you'd be drawn to all these different things that you actually do. I know that you said that you work with the archetypes. So is that just sort of how do you mix that in?
So at the Archetypal Academy, the founder there did his doctorate on the origins of astrology all the way back to Sumeria and developed this 12 archetypal system, the original 12 archetypes. And so whenever I sit with someone, I'm able to share with them their archetypal profile. And the reason I like to work with archetypes is because I feel like it helps to um, sort of minimize the small story of the small self, you know, that we carry with us through the lifetime, and helps us to tap into more of a mythical journey that we're on. Whenever we see things through the eyes of the universe, that we're all a spectrum of all of these archetypes, you know, based on the moment that we were born. And in everyone's chart, you have a certain number of ruling archetypes. Every planet has meaning. But there's the dominant energies, which of course is the Trinity, the sun, the moon, the ascendant. And in my system, any planet conjunct the three also become rulers. So they're just these powerful energies that are living through us on a soul level that give us sort of a vessel to pour our soul through.
Yeah, it sounds like a very expanded helping people to get out of the small self and into the more expansive nature of who we truly are.
Exactly. Yes.
So, well, wonderful. Well, what does 2025 hold for us? I know you have such a wonderful way of translating things, so I'm excited to hear your perspective.
Yeah. Well, should I go ahead and start my PowerPoint? Are you ready to take the journey?
Sure. Yeah, I'll probably have questions along the way. I'll have to check myself, but yeah, I do want to say maybe before we start, just I'm very curious about the embodiment and the movement, and I think that that is what I've noticed on my journey, and what I see a lot in other people is that I think with all the spiritual, I don't know, movements and journeys that many of us have been on, we've been out of our body more than in. And I think it's critical, I'm going to say, to be more embodied now than ever before, to really be in our body. Thoughts on that?
I agree 100%. You know, there's so much focus on ascension, right? But I really see it as descension, is bringing the light down onto the planet. I mean, we're incarnated, you know, and so that I feel feels to me like this great shift that we're creating this new paradigm where we're reemerging into the garden, which is our birthright. And it is very somatic and it is biological. And, you know, bypassing that actually creates fractures in the being. I mean, we're mind, body, spirit. We are spirit and matter. And I feel like this year in particular is really going to be an invitation for that intersection to really take hold.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess dive in. I'll
Hey, all
let
right.
you share your screen
I'm going to
and
share here. And I have a couple of videos. And so if you have sound on your computer, and I'm going to share my sound as well. And one moment here. Kind of minimize a couple things. And just let me know when you see my first slide.
yes.
Okay, great. All right, so I'm really excited to share this with you all. This is my partner, Russell, in the picture. We created this presentation and we gave it live. We've given it live twice this week. So this is the third time. And I was really excited to get to share it again because we pour a lot of love into these presentations because we really feel like embodying these new principles, which have to do with vibration and frequency and color. It all helps to activate us on more of a cellular level as we are again embodying these new energies of this new time. So I'm going to skip right through this because you did such a great job presenting my bio, and we're just going to start here with a little short video.
I'm not hearing any sound.
You're not hearing sound.
No.
Is in your sound up? Okay. You hear it now?
Yeah.
Okay. right. So we like to start off with a bang because this is a time to celebrate that we have really arrived at this moment. And I'm sure that this all is very much intrinsic in all of you since you're aligning with these really powerful tools of dowsing and all the ways in which you're showing up in the world to be a part of the shift. And so the Shift Foundation is our nonprofit. As Mary said, we do all types of community cohesion events. And so thank you all for being part of the shift. And, you know, we synthesize a lot of different concepts, a lot of different ideas, philosophies, religions, science, spirit. And so the invitation is just to accept what resonates and just go ahead and dismiss the rest. And I like to start with just a brief meditation, if that's okay, if we want to just all close our eyes for just a couple of moments here. And just allowing the mind, any concepts or questions to rest for just a few moments and just situating ourselves comfortably between heaven and earth. And just lengthening out the inhale and the exhale for a few moments, just creating a little more space for receptivity. And just really allowing ourselves to surrender deep into gravity, being held by the mother with every exhale. While simultaneously feeling ourselves reaching up and out of gravity with every rise of the breath. So growing lighter and brighter with every inhale, reaching out through the crown into the great mystery. And just giving thanks for this moment to be serving one another on the unfolding journey of evolution and calling upon our highest consciousness to be present here. The part of us connected to the one mind that has access to all answers of all of time inside. Go ahead and take a final deep inhale, drawing as much air as you can in and holding that breath at the top for 9 seconds. In that place of suspension for a moment, feeling out beyond matter into the unified field. Moment comes for the breath to turn around, just inviting a gentle but thorough sweep of anything that could be obstructing the flow of light within, emptying fully, organically, and naturally down into the cauldron of the earth. And coming back when you're ready. All right, thank you for that. So just to highlight what we'll be going over this evening, this new conscious language that's emerging, this quantum consciousness, the backdrop of the cycles is always very important. And so we'll be talking in brief about the shifting of the eons. And then we'll be looking at the specifics. So we're going to look at the telescope first and then the microscope of 2025. And then we're going to look a little bit ahead even to a nexus point that we're all sort of intuiting, 2027, and what the gene keys have to say about that. And then a few suggested remedies, preparation, and then our conclusion. So these are some of our astrological themes of the year. Pluto fully into Aquarius, Uranus into Gemini, Neptune dancing back and forth over the Aries point. Same with Saturn, 29-degree Pisces into the Aries point. Jupiter will move into Cancer. We have 4 of our outer planets changing signs this year. This is really massive. The outer planets are the collective planets. They're the transpersonal planets, where the inner planets affect us more personally. The outer planets are collective evolution. And so all of our outer planet shifting signs in 1 year, Pluto moved in last year, but now the other 4 is massive. So just to say, I think everyone's feeling that this year could be even more massive than 2020, which is kind of hard to fathom. We're going to talk about the shift of the nodal axis, which is the collective evolutionary destiny line, briefly about some retrogrades and a few other things sprinkled in there. So why and how and what are we covering? I always say we, I just want to say we, because I'm usually have my partner right here. Russell and I teach everything together. And so he's actually with me all the time. He's my twin flame. And so we are very much unified in a lot of things. So if that's a little weird that I keep saying we, it's interesting that I'm doing this myself. But we, in the sense that we created this material for you. So here we are emerging into this new world, right? We're entering this brave new world. We all know that we were called to be pioneers of this. We're called to create a new story. And so this is, beautiful because it's like the Indra's net, the fractals of all the faces of the divine, and each of us a spark, each of us from our own heart chakra, activating a component of this new organismic consciousness that is emerging on the planet. And so there's many aspects to this big shift, which we'll go into a lot of them in brief, but just to name a few, that we're blending wisdoms, we're raising frequencies, we are seeing and remembering astrology as a bridge, astrology as the unifying language that's in all philosophies and all religions. And, at one time, humanity, basically lived and died by the stars and by their connection with nature. And in the dark ages, like many of our wisdom teachings, astrology was underground. But we know that here we are at this time of the great revealing, and it also is one of the things that is reemerging. It was very strategically sort of taken out of the collective consciousness because we couldn't be so easily controlled if we had direct knowledge. And that's what astrology is. It is our map. And so we are going to be talking about some controversial things tonight, and I don't think it's going to be news to anyone if you're paying attention to what's in the zeitgeist. And we love to see everything from a one-mind perspective, which is non-dualism. And so we practice neutrality over duality, and that is really a hallmark of the new age. And so these are some of the components that are flying into our awareness. Humanity is evolving to such high frequencies that we are going beyond the human realm, which is exciting and also kind of scary, right? And probably not news to any of this community, but it's really exciting times. My own teacher of the mystery school that I was in called me in the middle of the night a couple of months ago, and I was like, oh no, because we're very close friends now. I thought maybe she hurt herself. She says, Shannon, there's 20 spacecraft above my house right now. This is in Austin, Texas. Okay, so this is not just happening and we're hearing about it on the news. This is right in our backyard, and I'm sure many of you have your own experiences as well. And this is all implicit because one age is ending and the next is beginning. And the unifying frequency is love. So before we go into the specific astrology of 2025, I feel it's always important to understand the larger cycles. Astrology is a history of cycles, and basically humanity has fallen asleep and woken up over and over through thousands of years since the beginning of time. And this is what we understand as the ages. And different cultures describe these cycles of time in different ways. In Greece, it's the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, the Golden Age. In Vedic astrology, it's the Yuga cycles. In astrology, it's the precession of the equinox, and it's the astrological ages, which is a 24,000 year cycle that's broken into 12, the 12 signs. And so as such, every 2,160 years, then we shift into another astrological age. And it is typical that in between the ages, that it is very chaotic. And so this is a beautiful graph that Russell made that shows that what is creating the ages is our sun in a binary system with the star Sirius in an orbital pattern cycling around a barycenter. And the further they get apart, we go into the dark ages. When they come together, the lights come on. And you can see here over and over, we're going through the 12 archetypal energies. And just a little bit more information if the shifting of the ages is a little newer for you. I have another short video.
The great year. There is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. Lost civilizations, the golden age, Shangri-La. Might there be some truth to these ancient tales? Our ancestors spoke of a grand cycle, bringing about high ages of enlightenment and low ages of darkness, marked by the movement of the heavens. They said that our sun curves through space, moving in a great orbit of its own, pulling the Earth and other planets along with it. If the Earth did move along with the sun on a curved path through space, we might see the same precession of the equinox through the zodiac and changing of the pole stars that the lunisolar wobble theory now attempts to explain. But it would not be caused by the Earth's wobbling independent of the sun. It would be caused by the whole solar system curving through space. Another reference frame is at work.
We believe that our sun moves in space with our entire solar system, that the axis of our Earth remains aligned to a point in space where that is fixed in respect to the equinoxes, it's fixed in respect to all the solstices, so that basically our entire system moves around a point in space.
Just as day and night are caused by the spinning Earth, and the seasons are caused by the Earth's orbit around the sun, some ancient cultures believed there's an even larger cycle that influences the rise and fall of civilizations. Although these cultures were highly advanced, they seemed to decline into a worldwide dark age. Ancient Egypt, the Greek and Roman empires, the megalithic and Mayan civilizations all collapsed and their knowledge was lost. To Plato and others, this fall of civilization was an inevitable part of the cyclical nature of the great year.
The evidence for these advanced civilizations is almost universal in the sense that they seem to be at their height very near the beginning.
Just as day and night are caused by the spinning Earth, and the seasons are caused by the Earth's orbit around the sun, some ancient cultures believed there's an even larger cycle that influences the rise and fall of civilizations.
There is a cycle corresponding to spring, summer, autumn, winter, and we might say that this prevails metaphysically or spiritually to the human race itself.
This cycle of the ages was given different names by different cultures. To the Greeks, it was the great year, broken down into 4 periods: the Iron, Bronze, Silver, and Golden Ages, each age having its own distinct characteristics. The saints and sages of ancient India called it the Yuga cycle. The Babylonians and Egyptians had still other names for it, and the Greco-Roman Mithraic culture identified it simply by its observed celestial movement, the precession of the equinox.
I hope that that helped a little bit. Sometimes I think that the visual is helps us integrate. And so, as I mentioned, whenever we come to these cusp periods, which we are at the cusp between the Pisces and the Aquarian age, it is chaotic because we understand how alchemy works. Just like nature, it is through the process of decay. It is through the process of transmutation. And there's even lots of Bible verses that talk about some of these things. And, for example, in Matthew, the disciples came unto him privately saying, "Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the age?" And he said, "Ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." And so this is this prophesied time of the apocalypse. And thank goodness for etymology. We understand that simply means this is the time of the great revealing. This is the time where we are coming out of the dark age of Pisces, where in simplicity, Pisces, the glyph of the two fish swimming in opposite directions, was an age of duality. It was an age where there was an illusion of separation between matter and spirit. If we feel we're separate from source, separate from God, then we're more easily controlled. And that was the predominant paradigm in the narrative, that we were powerless and that we must be dictated by powers outside of us, whether it was the church or the government or the doctor or even the nighttime news. And so this is this shift into this new age of Aquarius, where the fish turn and face each other and recognize each other in the mirror. So the new paradigm is considered to be the return of the Purusha, which is a Vedic term for the one mind consciousness. I like to call it organismic consciousness, where we remember ourselves all as one organism, as one human family. And when enough people awaken, this time of the Great Awakening, to that awareness, then we will naturally and organically transform every system of our world. And as we are watching this collapse, they are all disintegrating because they have to, in order for us to create this new earth, this new paradigm. So the great Carl Jung, one of my greatest teachers, one of his famous quotes, "The shift into the aeon of Aquarius means that man will essentially be God and God man. The signs pointing in this direction consist in the fact that the cosmic power of self-destruction is given into the hands of man." So this is very important because I feel very strongly that the quest that we're on, this time of the Great Awakening, where we're waking up that not only are we not powerless, we are all powerful. We are fractals of God consciousness, that it is our responsibility to take the reins to create this new paradigm, to create this new earth. And yes, this is the return of Christ, the Christed consciousness, which is biological. It is the Kundalini, it is the chakra system coming online, the pineal gland opening up, and us connecting to the source, to the light, which creates a toroidal field of energy around us, which raises the vibratory field, the fabric of this new earth rising. So that is the backdrop that we need to always keep in mind whenever we're looking into some of the chaotic moments, because certainly every day it feels like there's something else going on, something that's blowing our minds, something that's very scary, something that feels very apocalyptic. And yes, the earth herself is going through an ascension process and a purging and a massive transmutation. So moving now into this year, one of the main things, again, going from the macro down to the micro, is that Pluto, the planet that rules Scorpio, our furthest planet, takes 248 years to go around the zodiac, is now officially in Aquarius for the next 19 years, till 2044. This is a big deal because Pluto is the last planet of the planets to enter Aquarius. So if anybody's wondering, yes, we are here. Everybody always wants to ask the question, well, when do we officially arrive into the new age? And there's a spectrum of energy, this cusping energy. It's kind of like saying, When does the sun rise? Is it when you see the luminescent glow coming over the horizon, or is it when the orb actually appears? And actually, I feel that this is the power of deciphering code, reading archetypally, understanding astrology and mythology. If we understand that the Aquarian archetype is about revolution and awakening and freedom and unity consciousness, we can look back to the 60s and see, like, that was whenever those seeds started coming up from the ground. And because these ages are 2,000 plus years long, this cusp period could well be 50 or 100 years. But it does, to me, feel very much like we have arrived. And so Pluto into Aquarius is really a confirmation of that. So Pluto is the planet that rules alchemy. Pluto rules transformation. Pluto rules power and powerlessness. It has to do with death and rebirth. Again, ruling Scorpio. We can always learn about astrology by looking at nature. In the Northern Hemisphere, Scorpio season, that's when everything dies. The leaves decay, they fall from the trees, they go into the underworld, the compost of winter, right? And then they're reborn in the spring. We do this on a soul level. We do this on a collective level. So Pluto, transformation, alchemy. Now in Aquarius, Aquarius is humanity. Aquarius is the people. So we can put that little alphabet sentence together, A plus B equals C. It's transformation of humanity, transformation of consciousness, revolution of power. Pluto always brings with it the shadow. It reveals what's been hidden. It brings to the surface what is no longer viable. And so this is where the disruption comes. This is the dross. This is this great revealing of all the shadow in our government and in our world, and the misuse of power. All of that has been so in our face. Hallelujah. Now we know what we need to transform, and we're well on our way. And so it is very much sort of like a storm. It is this sort of like having to walk the tight wire between light and dark, between fear and love. And the place to find the center is in the heart. Some of the other aspects of Aquarius rules technology. So if you think about, Aquarius is the collective consciousness. Technology is the World Wide Web. It's the outer manifestation, the material manifestation of the true interconnection of all of us. And so it, of course, rules AI, robotics, and it also rules, cryptocurrency, which is very much Aquarian. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But these are some of the things that you can sense, like, wow, it's happening so fast. And this is where we can kind of just all shake our heads and agree, we have arrived. And so here's another little short video about some of the aspects of this use of technology.
Did you know AI is cloning human personalities?
Stand by to engage neural probe.
Uploading our minds to the cloud remains science fiction.
You've transitioned to a synthetic body.
But we're inching closer to reality. Scientists recently created AI agents that can mimic your personality with 85% accuracy after a 2-hour chat. Looking for a new best friend? Imagine bantering with an AI version of yourself. Experts predict 1 in 10 people will have a digital clone by 2030. Beyond creating a virtual doppelganger, this tech could revolutionize everything from job interviews to preserving memories of loved ones. Some see it as a path to digital immortality, while others view it as the next AI threat to humanity. As scientists unveil another groundbreaking technological advance, the question lingers. Are we prepared for a world where AI can think and act just like us? Did you know?
I would say no. And I know that we're all sort of aware that that is a possibility, and quite probably a lot of the sort of more nefarious agenda. And so, it definitely feels like we're entering into this Aquarian age, really having to see the shadow of Aquarius. If we think about Aquarius being us in community and in this human family, like singing Kumbaya, all in this sort of utopian energy, we entered Aquarius, think about like 2020, where the narrative was to fear each other. Stay in your houses, don't touch your neighbor, right? And so we are very much sort of figuring out, how are we going to remain human? And this is a really important part of this shift. And you know, AI is not going anywhere. And so I see AI as sort of like money. It's neutral. It depends on whose hands it's in. And so therefore, again, I charge us with the responsibility to program consciousness into AI. And then the whole crypto world, I would love to hear whenever we have our Q&A at the end, you know, who's tuning into this? Because again, it's very Aquarian. It's not going anywhere because it's a decentralization of the resources, of the power. I think somebody came unmuted on accident. It's about collective empowerment, removing the intermediaries, community-driven economies, you know, transparency and trust, the blockchain. So it's a lot to learn, and it can feel very overwhelming, but there's help out there. And actually part of our mission with the Shift Foundation is to be an instrument to help people get on board and see how actually AI can give us more of our life back. I have been in a deep immersion with some business coaches to understand how it's going to help us get our message out there and give us more time with our family, so that we can take a lot of the minutia off of our plates that ends up kind of like being soul sucking. So yes, crypto is definitely a part of this Pluto in Aquarius. And then what's interesting is that, you may know this, nations also have astrology charts. And the United States is in its Pluto return. And so, because remember I said that Pluto takes 248 years to go around the zodiac, that is one Plutonian cycle. And so that is the birth of our nation, the rebirth of our nation. So it's saying a rebirth of our nation's power. And so this is one of the converging cycles that we are upon, and it's revealing the shadow like Pluto does, and it's going to go through an alchemical process, and it's going to come to a higher level of empowerment. That's what Pluto wants. So, you know, as we mentioned, Pluto is astrology is a history of cycles. So we can look at some historical moments when past Pluto Aquarius transits, and the most recent one was the American Revolution, the French Revolution. Then 2 cycles ago, there was these smallpox, so a pandemic, you know, and on and on and on. So we see these archetypal themes as the astrology repeats itself, and this is how we make prediction. This is how we understand. This is how we can also trust. In 70 CE, the fall of the Second Temple. Very interesting, along with some of the other astrological aspects that are also converging this year. All occurred during that same period. So I always like to cross-reference systems. It's so beautiful. There's so many different languages for truth and evolution. And in Chinese astrology, it is going to be the year of the snake. So the Chinese astrological year comes with the first new moon, the new moon Aquarius, on January 29th. And this is really fascinating to feel the resonance. The snake is the symbol for Scorpio, for Pluto, which has to do with that whole death and rebirth. It has to do with revealing the shadow, what's underneath. It has to do with shedding our skin. It feels like we are in this very transitional time. Now, I know a lot of us are like, oh my gosh, are we there yet? It's like birth, right? We've been anticipating this for decades, the shift, for lifetimes. We all chose to be here for this showdown right now. And these last few years, it's been like, oh my gosh, we're there. And it's like this intensity, right? And I really feel like we've been having Braxton Hicks. It's like, we're ready to go to the hospital. We've got our bag packed, and we're just not there yet. Well, this year and next year feel like we're going through the birth canal. Another thing about the snake is that it represents the Kundalini energy, which is that activating frequency within. So we're going to have more and more people coming into these higher vibrational states. The veil is going to continue to be very thin. Reality is going to continue to feel more and more surreal. So we're going to expect radical transformation. The snake is also very adaptable, very intelligent, very resourceful. Another system that we look to is numerology. It's also a 9-year. What is a 9? It's the last number. It's the end of a cycle. Again, completion, death and rebirth. This is the, I would say, theme that is woven through almost every one of the aspects is this death and birth energy. And we're sort of going back and forth between the end and the decay, and then the birth and the new and the horizon. And whenever I just back to the snake for a moment, when I was doing my research back in Scorpio season, I went deeper into that whole process of molting. And it's very interesting. The snake goes through that process called ecstasis, which is when the skin gets dry and he's outgrown it and he needs to shed the skin. And so organically and intuitively, he knows to rub up against something that's sharp, like a tree or a rock, that will slice the skin, and that begins the release. I was so struck so profoundly by that, because if you think about that metaphorically with our own soul's evolution, certainly with our collective evolution, humanity has been asleep for thousands of years. We have to have something shocking, something abrupt to wake us up, to mobilize us. And these are these contrasting energies. So this is where I always like to invite people to trust the darkness, to trust the intensity, to trust the instability, because it's that storm. Aquarius is that storm of awakening that shifts us. And Carl Jung calls that enantiodromia, that polarizing force. It's like that bow and the bow and arrow being pulled back so far in the opposing direction. Whatever that is, the nefarious energies, the deep state, whatever it is, that whenever it finally bursts free, it takes a quantum leap forward. So we can know that that's the process that we're in into this new age, which again, I see this moving us into like 2027. And then finally, the Hermit card and the Tarot. It is going to be chaotic. It is going to be, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty. And so the invitation is to find refuge within, to find your answers within, to get quiet. We are bombarded with fear porn on the news. And of course, we don't even know what to believe anymore. But we have all of those answers right inside, because remember, we have access to infinite knowledge, because we are the infinite. So we're going to need to remember that to hold the light is going to need to be going into inner sanctuary. All right, so this presentation just goes through the summer. And Mary, I apologize I didn't talk to you about that. It's just that it's a lot of information, and maybe I can come back in the summer and we can do the second half of the year. So we're going to talk about the transits January through July now.
And I just want to remind people, there's so much good stuff going on. If you have questions, put it in the chat and we'll circle back.
Yes. All right, so that's just a list. If anybody likes to take a picture, a snapshot, if you want to save that for any reason. And then we're just going to go through, most of these. So we started out the year in Mars retrograde. So I'm assuming most people know a little bit about Mars retrograde. The retrogrades are the invitation to reflect, to revise, to reconsider, to rewrite. And they're really good moments, because we get on the hamster wheel of life and then we wake up and we're like, heck, how did I get here? Because all the obligations of life have us in the disease of busyness. And the timelines are shifting so much that we need to reflect on, are we still on the right path, or do we need to make some course corrections? And Mars is the engine. Mars is our direct motion. It's the warrior energy. It's where we're going. It's our desire nature. And Mars is a much more rare retrograde. We're really familiar with Mercury. It's 3 times a year. We get to review our functionality. It's more about like our navigation and our technology and our communication, our thoughts. Mars is where we're aiming our arrow. It's what's motivating us. So we started out the year back in November, December, when it went retrograde, reflecting upon where are we really going? Where do we really go? So it's a really beautiful alignment that it came with the new year, because I'm not an advocate for being off to the races at January 1st. It's this Gregorian time that's been chosen, and it's not really in harmony with nature. I really feel like Imbolc and then spring is when we should really get our engines going. Right now we're in the compost, we're in the womb. So the invitation is to self-reflect, and it was started out, it's retrograded in Leo, and Leo is the sign that rules our heart, our passion, our legacy. So the question is, are you in alignment with your passions? Is what you're doing what you really love? Are your goals really in alignment with your higher purpose? And then it retrograded back into Cancer, January 5th, which took us into a deeper reflective place around our emotionality, our security. There's a lot on the planet right now. People are feeling a little insecure. The grounds are shifting so fast. It also has to do with our family, and a lot of changes within the structure. It can be very literal. It can be like changes with the kids or with your parents, or I have a lot of that in my field, people needing to take care of their aging parents, or custody things going on, or it could be very literal in the sense of moving or remodeling. But it's a beautiful time to take time to reflect on this next Mars cycle, which is a year and a half. Mars only retrogrades every 18 months. So this is a big deal. We get to start a new cycle, being in integrity with our passion and with our emotional needs. It goes direct on February 23rd. So one of the biggest, again, pretty wide brushstroke shifts of 2025 is that the transiting nodal axis is moving out of Aries, Libra, and into Virgo, Pisces. So the nodal axis is the destiny line. It's the karmic trajectory of evolution for humanity. It has to do with our cutting edge of our own evolutionary path, and it has to do with our karma and the things we're carrying and the things that keep us stuck, and it's the shadow. And then it has to do with the dharma. It has to do with our spiritual contract or our growth edge. So the nodal axis is what creates the eclipses. And so basically the eclipses have been in the axis of Aries Libra since early 2023. And the Aries Libra axis is the axis of relationships. Anybody here gone through relationship change or turmoil or endings or beginnings in the last 2 years? I know it's definitely been present in my field. And it's also the axis of war and peace. Peace being Libra, war being Aries. We saw the big eruption in the Middle East during the eclipse season in the fall of 2023. It has continued. Seems like hopefully it's going to be simmering down. All of us were doing a lot of issues around our dependency, all the shadow of Libra, because the South Node holds the shadow. And being called to step into that North Node of Aries, the warrior energy, the spiritual warrior. So now that the nodes are shifting into Virgo South Node, which is the karmic area, North Node Pisces, the zeitgeist, the tip of evolution is going to change. This is the axis of the intersection of heaven and earth. Earth being Virgo, Pisces being heaven. Virgo is the earth goddess. She's the soul mother. She's the master of creating order out of chaos. Pisces is the infinite. It's the chaos. It's everything that's boundless, everything that's undefinable, infinite possibility. This is a very existential axis. It is also the axis of health. And so we're going to be met with our edges around how do we deal with the unknown? How do we deal with uncertainty? How do we deal with endings? Because again, we haven't gone to it yet, but a couple of our major outer planets are leaving the zodiac, the end of the zodiac of Pisces and entering Aries. So there's going to be a lot of apocalyptic energy in the field, which is quite intense, right? And so some of the ways that we will work with this is that if we start feeling overwhelmed by all the things we can't control, Pisces, then we go back into our sort of chop wood, carry water, Virgo nature, which is just being present. It's about doing the things to stay present in the body, staying connected to the earth. It's about being organized in our role. Virgo is also about service. How do we serve this end times? She's also all about health. It is through the body, the Virgo temple, the sacred body, that we access these higher dimensional states. So we're going to see a lot of people going beyond where they've been in their spiritual evolution. The veil, as I mentioned, is going to become thinner and thinner. A lot of spiritual gifts coming online, a lot of people opening up to their capacity to tap in and to trust their psychic nature. There's also going to be a lot of fear. There's going to be a lot of overwhelm. There's going to be a lot of chaos. And so this is the axis of how do we deal. The highest, and we're going to have 2 years to deal with this, is the integration of heaven, Pisces, to earth. And that's what we're here to do. And that's how what we do is through the embodiment, as we talked about in the beginning. How do we bring that infinite energy and that infinite nature down into the physical? And those are our daily practices. And Virgo is a ritualist. And so all of those things are going to become very, very important. And so the nodes moved into Virgo Pisces in January. February is when March goes direct. And then March is a little wild. It's maybe the wildest month of the year because we enter to the eclipse season. Eclipse seasons are twice a year. They happen every 6 months. And the eclipse season is known as a portal. It's a portal of alchemy, a portal of transformation. And what we understand about eclipses is that it is when the evolutionary clock moves forward. There's an obscuration of the light, right? An eclipse. And the ground starts shifting and the energies accelerate and we take these quantum leaps. They're non-dual, but they can be shocking. It can be destabilizing. It's known as a time when the gates are open. A lot of people cross over. I lost my dad and my brother during an eclipse portal. It's because they were already on their way out. But it also can manifest dream seeds. It can be like lightning fast karma. So the eclipse portal opens up at the very beginning of March. At the same time, on March 1st, Venus now turns retrograde. So it's like the cosmic lovers pass and give each other a high five. Mars goes direct February 23rd, and then Venus goes retrograde just a week later. Venus also has a very rare retrograde cycle. It's also every 18 months. Venus rules relationships. Venus rules our relationship to ourselves as the primary relationship, our relationship to others, which becomes a mirror or a fractal of whatever we're vibrating inside with our relationship to ourselves. We manifest on the outside. Venus is also the desire nature. It's what we want. It's what we value. It's our money. And so this is going to be a 6-week time of reevaluation, review, reflection on where are we at with our relationships. And remembering that we've been all collectively working out our relationship balance since the nodes were in Libra Aries, all the eclipses were in Libra Aries since the spring of 2023. So it's kind of like a graduation point. It's kind of like the culmination or the alchemy of the work that we've been doing for the last 2 years. March 14th, we have our first eclipse. It will be the first eclipse in Virgo of the cycle. Every 9 years, so the transiting nodal axis, which creates the eclipses, takes 18 years to go around the zodiac. Every 9 years, it goes halfway around. So every year and a half, it's in a different axis of polarity. The last time we were in the Virgo Pisces axis with the eclipses in Virgo Pisces axis was 2016, 2017. So you can remember back of some themes because there's a continuation. And so the first eclipse is a lunar eclipse. That means it's a full moon. There's something culminating. There's something that's ending. Virgo, again, the shadow we look at, it's worry. It's micromanaging. It's control. It is anxiety. And again, whenever we're facing all of this unknown, that's easy to slip into. And the invitation is to let go and to trust, Pisces, that there's a higher orchestration of things. There's also going to be a real emphasis on health. We're going to see an uptick in some health crisis, but we're also going to see a lot of incredible emerging technologies to attend to these things. There's been a lot of toxicity put into our field, and that's a whole nother documentary to talk about all of that. But it is the time now that we get to take our medical sovereignty into our own hands. And I'm going to talk about some of these incredible technologies at the end, that we can address some of these invasions of these nefarious energies that are in our food, in our water, in our air. It's really exciting. Venus retrogrades in Aries, goes back to Pisces around the middle of the month. So we're also going to be looking at our relationship to the divine, our relationship to trust. And then we're going to have our final eclipse in Aries of the 2-year cycle. So again, this is the culmination of the work that we've been doing for the last 2 years. And it's this emergence, this rebirth of the I am. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. I am separate. I am sovereign. And it is this birth of the spiritual warrior. And after we just went through the Mars retrograde, which rules Aries, we're going to know who we are. And we're going to get to activate that in a really profound way. It's a very powerful time to activate some projects, to activate some of the goals that you've been having. Because monks have always said that thoughts, actions, and deeds take on 10,000 times their weight and effect during an eclipse portal. So that is the 2 eclipses. And then March 30th, Neptune enters Aries. Let me skip that slide. If anybody wants the eclipse dates, this is a slide to take a picture of. This shows when the portal opens, February 27th. The portal doesn't close until April 12th with the previous and the following lunations. And yes, the eclipses are quantum leaps in evolution. But back to Neptune now. This is, again, one of the major shifts because Neptune takes 164 years to go around the zodiac. Another massive shift. It's been dancing over the anaretic degree, the last degree of the zodiac, Pisces, the last sign over this last year, which is known as the death degree. It's the crisis point. And it's the dissolution. It's the end. It's the dissolving. Neptune rules Pisces in its own sign. So it's the mystical realm. It's the collective consciousness. It's the dream. The dream is ending, which I see as the illusion is ending. And when it goes through that birth portal into Aries, the baby is born into the warrior, into the beginning. So we're going to see new visionary leadership. We're going to see a new level of spiritual bravery, a lot of creative innovation, a lot of empowerment, a lot more collective unity, a lot of new projects taking hold. It's also notoriously a very chaotic time. It is a time in history where wars have broken out because of the conflict in philosophy, ideologies. One dream, half or whatever the percentages of the collective having one dream and one version of reality, and then the others holding the other one for this new earth. And this is, also a cycle of this ingress when the Civil War started. So it's an interesting, I'm not going to go into a lot of the details around the specifics on the wars. We just can know. I don't like to give that a lot of information, but this is a time historically where the tipping point happens, and it has come through a lot of intensity. So there's a few more things with pandemics and
We're not done yet.
yes, we're not quite done yet, but we're so close. Yeah. Okay. So then on to April. I didn't go through all the retrogrades, but we will be in retrograde season in April. So that's that wonderful time to reflect. Probably we're all going to be thinking about what all happened during the eclipse portal. Be like, oh my gosh, I need to reflect on all of this. I need to get my mind right because Mercury rules our mind. And you know, our thoughts create our reality. So it's a beautiful time to go into self-reflection. And it's going to go from Pisces, which is our connection to the divine. And it's going to be going back and forth over the Pisces Aries point. Again, death, birth, the end, the beginning, over and over. Almost every single ingress of planetary movement this year is going over those points. It is wild. Then in May 24th to be exact, Saturn goes through that death degree of Pisces. They've both been in Pisces. So those outer planets that rule the collective consciousness, Saturn rules 3D reality. Ending. Reality as we've known it is over. I mean, we don't have to, I don't think there's any argument on that. All you have to do is look around. I mean, this is a whole new world. This is very exciting. And we don't want to go back to the way it was, right? So Saturn rules the foundation. It rules the structures of our world, our society, the roots. And it is going to also be reborn. New structures, bold reforms, a redefinition of our identity, justice and order. It also could be authoritarian leadership, impatient, a escalation of conflict, a resistance to change. Saturn can be really resistant. And it's going to be transiting all the way through September. And then it's going to retrograde. So both of these, Saturn and Neptune, are going to do this like cha-cha. They're going to be like into the new, and they're going to retrograde in the fall. So this is this back and forth. And, you know, we're also, I mean, we're the micro of the macro. So we're also looking at our own foundation, our own structures, you know, with the financial situation changing so rapidly, with the governmental, the leadership changing so rapidly, with reality as we know it changing so rapidly, with AI taking jobs so rapidly, right? We are having to move very, very fast to meet these times. So now some past Aries, Saturn into Aries. Was the beginning of the tech boom in 96. So Saturn takes 28 years to go around, by the way. So it's nowhere near as long of a cycle as Neptune or as Pluto, but it is still significant. And yes, it was the beginning of the Vietnam War and the earliest phases of World War II. But you know what I like to think and say is that this is evolution in action. We are not where we were collectively in those periods. We have evolved as a collective consciousness, and the collective consciousness is tipping the scales towards unity conscious, towards peace. So this is, again, our responsibility to not get drawn in and seduced by this theater of war and this dream of war, to actually, the way that I work with it is in a very Tonglen manner, to send benevolence to the leaders that are clearly suffering so deeply, that from that severance of source inside, that severance of the divine, that they could inflict harm on humanity, that the awakening can happen through within, that I feel like that is our superpower and that is our responsibility. So the fact that Neptune and Saturn coming together in Aries in the same year is beyond profound. Manifestation of new ideals with action. Action. Aries is action. Remember, it's Mars. It's where we're going. So we're going to be implementing Neptune, this new consciousness, this new dream, into reality. Saturn. This feels like some healing balm. So Jupiter, our next planet, our largest planet, rules expansion. It's the great benefic. It brings all the goodies. It's the benefits. It's the blessings. It's the new horizon. It's about the expansion of consciousness. it moves into Cancer, June 9th, where it will be for a year. It has a 12-year orbit, so it spends 1 year in each house. And it is going to move into Cancer. So there's going to be a lot of emotional support. We're going to have a lot deeper empathy, a lot more connection to home, to family, to our country here. I think that it's going to be like a healing balm, a healing salve to connect on a more emotional level, to deal with a lot of the intensity on the outside. And then our final outer planet in July, and this is our last transit, and it's not till the second half of the year, but it's so important that we're going to name it. Uranus is the planet that rules Aquarius. It's the lightning bolt of change in the hands of destiny. So it rules evolution, awakening. It is also the disruptor. It is the storm. It's moving into Gemini, and it's going to be there for 7 years. Uranus takes 84 years to go around the zodiac, so it's pretty long cycle. Gemini is our mind. It's our thoughts. It's our consciousness. I feel this massive surge of awakening coming to the collective, this massive global upgrade in our awareness, and a lot of breakthroughs. Of course, it's going to affect technology in profound ways, but we're all going to be electrified even more into this new time. And just in brief, yes, it was also the same time entry into World War II and the Civil War. These were happening. I mean, it's kind of crazy that all of these same ingresses are happening when these previous wars took place. So, and this is really, I feel like the grace. Yes, individually in history, they were implicit of destruction, but this time, when they're coming into their 0 degrees aspect, they're going to be making a minor trine in the sky. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Pluto, transformation. Neptune, of the dream, the collective. Uranus, awakening, ascension process, which is a new sacred geometry that's going to be planted into the collective grid. So this is going to be in place for 2 years. And I feel like this is going to be what's holding and what's guiding as we go through this last showdown through the birth canal. So where is all this heading? I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with the gene keys. I've just recently taken a little dive into it, and it's just really, really profoundly nuanced. And because it is an ascension process that's biological, the genes being our 64 genes, it feels very significant for this ascension/descension. And Richard Rudd, the founder, talks about 2027 and the collective consciousness arriving at this gene key 55, where I won't go into it in too much depth, but we rise out of the shadow of victimization, which is that amnesia where the 2 fish are asleep to our unity of consciousness. Anytime we're pointing the finger at this political party or that leader or anyone that's triggering us, we're essentially asleep. So we wake up as a humanity, those of us that are on this path, right, on that channel, and there's this final mutation into true freedom. And freedom beyond fighting for our freedom on the planet Earth, freedom from the illusion, freedom from the illusion and the pain and the trauma of separation. And, you know, a lot of the DNA is going to die off, and that's okay. That's this bifurcation that's happening. We're going to see a lot of really beautiful shifts in frequency. It's going to be the end of fiefdom, the old paradigms of control and hierarchy, fear-based governance. It is the activation of the solar plexus, which is the true power center of emotional self-awareness, our spiritual embodiment. There's going to be a new era of sacred relationships, more twin flames coming into union as the unification of the syzygy, of the one consciousness incarnate in form, and the return of synarchy instead of patriarchy. And so I feel like this year of the snake, the 9-year, this is this final sort of shedding. This is this time where we do our last, whatever, round and round we go, right? But this final for this phase of this alchemical work that we've all been working so hard and that we've been doing. If anybody wants to hear a beautiful download of this Gene Key 55, you can take a picture or go to that QR code. And I can also share this with you later. I love this woman. It's a transmission of energy. And also, of course, listening to Richard Rudd. All right, so just in completion, just some things to keep in mind. You know, with the Virgo Pisces axis, our health and our tending to our physical and spiritual health is going to be paramount. As we're going to be faced with more and more uncertainty, with more and more apocalyptic experiences, finding simplicity, finding what brings us joy, finding that center, purifying the vessel, purifying the temple is going to help us to attune to these higher frequencies. Finding our community, creating our own ecosystems, keeping our money local, off the matrix, really creating that organism. Aquarius is about us coming together. We have to do all of these things, these grassroots things. Natural medicines. Yes, there is a lot in the realm of plant medicine. Yes, they are here to help us to evolve. Actually, I want to go back to that slide really quick. Ozone therapy. I'm a huge advocate for ozone therapy. Another one of those technologies that has been hidden from us. It actually works on a mitochondrial level. Cancer cells cannot live in the body whenever it's infused with ozone, which is oxygen, which is the breath of God. And so I am organized here with a woman where we're helping to educate people about how they can set up their own ozone therapy protocol in their house. It's very affordable, and this is true medical sovereignty. It actually dissolves the nanoparticles, the ozone therapy in the blood, and we're working with microscopists. So this is groundbreaking. This is very underground. This is not something that we can really advertise. And if you want more information, I have some at the end of the slideshow. Not to mention it's anti-parasitic, antibacterial, anti-everything. She was, this doctor that I work with here in Wimberley was curing COVID. People were lined up at her house in 2020 because ozone immediately. Pathogens cannot live in contact with ozone. So yes, this is a spiritual battle, and to remember as much as possible to practice neutrality over duality, seeing everything from above, from the one mind, trusting the darkness is playing a role. And get on board with AI. Have it serve your humanity. Help you give your life back. Help it serve your mission. And just remember that to take things a little less seriously. We've got this, right? And truly, we are the greatest technology. We are the ones we've been waiting for, and it's the technology of happiness. We're not just straddling the ages, we're straddling the dimensional states. And it's all about vibration and frequency. By doing the things that you love, by turning on music, by using aromatherapy, the simplicity of the day-to-day Virgo helps us tap into the infinite. And I have one final little video for you.
interesting species, an interesting mix. You're capable of such beautiful dreams and such horrible nightmares. You feel so lost, so cut off, so alone. In all our searching, the only thing we've found that makes the emptiness bearable is each other.
And thanks to Russell for these incredible slides. This was made with love from both of us. And then I just have a couple of what we call shameless plugs. If anyone is interested in the ozone initiation, this is the QR code for the course and the information. You can also contact me directly. And then we also, through our Shift Foundation, work with this incredible woman who is mentoring people into how AI can serve your life, your mission, and give you your humanity back. She's running some really incredible programs, very, very affordable, and I highly recommend that you consider that as well. And then me, I'm running a discount on readings for the rest of January, a 15% off discount. And this is where it really comes alive. You find out where all of the planets are in your own chart. Where's the ending? Where's the activation? Where is everything happening? And so the gift code is gift15, and we can get you that information also later. So thank you so much. That's what I have for you. And there we
Thank you.
go.
Wow. That was a lot. You pack, I will have to say I do feel encouraged. You know, I think you did a good job of just reminding us that we are the change. We have the power. Okay, I don't know what's in the chat, but I have a few questions for you. I think it's kind of, well, one of the things that, I mean, technology is coming on board very quickly, and I mean, I think we cannot afford to let it pass us by. We have to jump on that train. But there's also that concern that I know a lot of people have about transhumanism,
Yes.
you know, and they're trying to take the you know, the spirit, the soul out of who we are. You have thoughts, words, something to say about
Yes,
that?
I feel that this is a lot of the bifurcation that I'm talking about. I feel that this is why it's imperative that we find our true sovereignty outside of the system and be prepared to not go to the doctor, to not buy into the things that are part of that agenda. As I said, I feel extremely blessed, and it's not a coincidence that I was brought to Wimberley. We are truly a nexus point, a micro of the new earth. The most extraordinary people I've ever met in my life. Like, for example, the doctor that I'm talking about, Chinese medicine doctor, she's dedicated her life to educating people that through ozone, not only do you fight all of the diseases, AIDS can't live with ozone treatments, cancer, but she put a prayer out about 6 months ago and said, I need to work with a microscopist. The next day, this is how this instant karma, when we're on the right channel.
Okay, wait, now what is a microscopist?
A dark field microscopist is someone who studies blood. Okay.
Ah,
And so we know that these nanoparticles have been implanted through the vaccines. It's in the chemtrails, it's in the water, it's everywhere. Okay. So that can feel really terrifying, right? Well, the very next day after she put that prayer out, one of her clients said, I have someone you need to meet. Turned out to be a microscopist. So this is where you can trust the divine orchestration of things. They started working together. The microscopist, who in a world of no coincidence happens to be my new neighbor because I had to move around that time. She lives across the street from me. Okay. So we're like all these like undercover, ambassadors of the ship. She said that since April last year, which was that massive eclipse, everybody's blood that she looks at has these nanoparticles, these little satellites, also snake venom and all kinds of crazy stuff, right? Okay. They started working together. Mind blown. It dissolves with the ozone therapy. So this is like, honestly, I'm an astrologer, but I'm getting trained so that I can train more people. Like our health, there's a battle going on for the human soul. We know that. So I'm not sugarcoating that. I'm just simply saying that we are more powerful because we are the light. We are the divine. And we have to remember we're not bystanders. So we can't sit back in fear and watch what they are doing. They are us. They're all part of the same consciousness. And they're basically catalyzing us to take on our next level of evolution, which comes from taking back our own DNA, which comes from purifying the vessel, which comes from growing our own food, all of those things. Humanity's lazy. We've been asleep. We're really just fine with, everything being.
we've been conditioned.
We
Yeah.
have, 100%. And so this is where we have to mobilize. This is when this is where I see these planets moving into Aries. It's action time. Instead of like, whoa, what's happening? And everybody's overwhelmed and in survival mode. No, those of us that are awake, we have to be boots on the ground right now. And the tools are there. They're there for us. So that's the good news.
Yeah, and you talked about how important community is, and yeah, so I'm grateful for you and for our dowsing community and all the different you know uh, circles within circles. Let's see. Um, okay, Shannon, how do we find out about ozone therapy in our homes? Did you take that image that she showed on the screen? Because it had a QR code and I think it had like a website.
I'm actually going to put it in the chat right now.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
So here is the link. So if you can come in person to Texas, she does workshops, but she has a whole online course. You can watch it, learn it from home. The whole system is like $1,500. That's it. It's
Okay,
so
it
affordable.
says supernaturalozone.com in-person training. So so
website.
is that different than I had dental work done a while back and they did ozone therapy to remove any bacteria. Is that the same thing?
It is the same thing. But what we want to do is take it systemically. So you take it rectally or you can take it vaginally. And then it goes into every cell of our body. But then if you have like a cold or you have something, then you can breathe it. You can drink it. So when you get the setup, you get an oil bubbler, a water bubbler, and then the tubes to connect systemically. It's mind-blowing. And it's like you don't have to worry anymore. And I'm someone that has had a tumor on my breast before. That's the other thing, is that you can inject it. You can inject it directly into the body if you have arthritis or you have all kinds of different things going on. And it's like has its own intelligence. It's kind of like stem cells. It finds where the vulnerability is. And so this is us coming online with, I think about this as like the light version of the transhumanistic movement, you know, like live forever, like as a robot. No, live forever because our bodies, technology are made for longevity.
So yeah, I think of this as that Aquarian innovative technology that is coming forward. And what I heard you say, and I definitely am on board with it too, is that we have to be our own healer, our own advocates, you know, not turn our power over to other and take charge of our own healing. So
Yes.
yeah. Um, so have you had any experience or heard anything about how like the ozone therapy works with like eyesights or
Yes. The doctor, Dr. Carrie Lynn Chu, healed her eyesight. You can put drops in. She used to have to wear readers. She doesn't have to wear them anymore.
so yeah, I think a lot of people would really enjoy that. Okay, let me think. Let's see. I had questions. Let's see about the when you we're talking about grace and like the magical trine. Could you talk a little bit more about that and the sacred geometry kind of coming on board?
Yeah, so the planets, they communicate with each other through mathematical angles. Like in your birth chart, you know, you see all the lines in the middle, like some of them are square and those are like difficult angles. But the trines are flowing, the tetrahedron, it's flowing energy. It's one of the sacred building blocks. And so it's basically, way I see it, the three planets, Pluto, which is death and rebirth, empowerment. Neptune is the mystical realm, the collective consciousness, the dream, and Uranus is Aquarius. It's about evolution. They are all flowing and creating a new template of working together over a period of 2 years as we go through this sort of, it feels like the last purging, you know, going on, this last push through the birth canal as we move closer towards this 2027 and beyond.
So I guess I think my big takeaway would be, I mean, if I had to distill all this juicy stuff down, what I guess my translation would be is, hold on, you know, we're on the end of the roller coaster, in that birthing canal, and you know, it's going to be kind of a wild ride, you know, for this year and next year, and with sounds like, you know, difficult and beautiful things happening all at the same time, and that we really need to be empowered to tap into our own inner power, that this is really a time to go within, but also to be more authentically who we are and in community, right? Not have to hide who we are, and you know, all these wonderful gifts and things that are just, they're coming on board, right? I mean, it sounds like we're not going to even be able to hide that stuff. I mean, I know a lot of us have been, you know, undercover, you know, for a long time. And I think people are hungry for more. I think they're ready. I don't think we have to downplay those things. And yeah, we need community. We need each other. We need to, I guess, follow that inner knowing.
Yes, and give your gifts, shine your light, contribute. So Aquarius, so there's 12 signs, but it's actually 6 axes of polarity. So the polarity point to Aquarius is Leo. Leo is our heart. Leo is our specific spark, our gift to life. So in order for the organism to work in its height and its best capacity, each of the organs, which is each one of us individuals, needs to be contributing our gifts, needs to be activating and giving our gift. Everyone is needed. And also I can't emphasize enough, to remember the power of the focus of the one mind. We need to be focusing on the horizon. Now, if you can't, and I don't mean like put your head in the sand and don't pay attention to anything that's going on, but this is why it's the master level. We're walking that tightrope of staying in neutrality rather than duality. And if you're seeing what's going on in the world and it's starting to become too much, it's becoming stressful on your being, and you're finding that you're falling into fear, it's time to take a break, to take a cleanse from the news. And then you go into the Virgo, into staying present and finding joy in the moment and finding the beauty in the music, Pisces, the creativity, because we're creating our reality with our frequency, with our vibration. So that is first. And that is it's a mind, body, spirit. It's an inside job.
Okay, I love it. Yeah, and I heard the creativity theme being very strong. I've heard that over and over and over, that this is the time.
Yeah.
I also loved the idea of the gene key of moving from um, out of victimhood into freedom, right? That freedom from illusion. And it does feel like where we are going. And I do think more and more people are getting on board, waking up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that, being free to dream a new dream. So,
As
yeah,
the
that,
awakened dreamers. And
yeah.
it's okay that not everybody is awake, because being awake means you have to have the muscle and the strength to look into the face of the darkness. And if you haven't been on a path of doing your own deep shadow work, it's way too destabilizing. We don't want everybody to wake up at the same time. It would be a collective psychotic break. So we just let people be where they're at, right? Compassion. And if they're ready, then it's like it's the snake, a little at a time, a little at a time. But we're eternal. So some people will just evolve on to the next life. It's not really our agenda to wake people up, in my opinion. If they come to us, then yes, of course we share. But I don't think we have to worry so much about that. I think it's going to take care of itself.
Well, it's individuals waking up, stepping forward into their path. Yeah, that dreaming. I think we had a question about the training. How long does the ozone training take, and any results with rebuilding the optic nerve from glaucoma damage?
It's a 2-day training. It's just a weekend. The next one is March 8th and 9th here in Wimberley. It will sell out. I know that because it's a small group to do when they're in person. If you can do it in person, she's amazing. Or you can do it online she sells it as a webinar form, and then you can do it in your own time. Rebuilding the optic nerve from glaucoma damage, that I cannot answer. That would be a question for Dr. Chu.
Okay.
And she's wonderful. She's wonderful, by the way, of answering questions. And, if you're just interested and you're curious, but you're not sure, then just make sure to say that Shannon sent you, that I referred you, and she'll take good care of you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That
Yeah.
is, that's great. So, does she do more than one a year?
Quarterly.
Quarterly. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So first quarter will be in March, and then next quarter will
Yes.
follow suit.
She also has a practitioner training that goes more into clinical, if there's any practitioners here that would like to incorporate it into their practice.
Okay.
And that's in May.
Okay, great. Well, this has been amazing. I feel like there's so much good, juicy stuff just rolling around. I'll be integrating for a while. So now, just to remind people, you offer private sessions, and you're having a 15% discount for our community. And your website, I think, went out on the email. And let's see, what else?
Another thing I'd like to share is I am starting a course, a 12-week Core Essentials of Spiritual Astrology course in March for people. I feel really passionate that you can learn just the pillars, the 12 archetypes, and know about the destiny line, the nodes, the south node karma, the north node your karmic contract, your dharma, in a 12-week, once a week format in small pods, starting in March, the week after the spring equinox. And that's also on my website.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. Let's see, and I'm sure you do other fabulous things. You work with people individually in a
Mhm.
healing capacity. I think
I do.
read
Yeah.
that. So yeah. Okay. I don't see any other questions in the chat. It's gone by so quick. Thank you. I'm gonna just say thank you to all of you guys for tuning in. And again, thank you for your donations. They help make this possible. And I do have my Envision Your Year coming up mini workshop on Saturday, the 25th. Would love to have you join that. So, were you going to say something, Shannon?
Well, I saw another question that I didn't answer about the ozone.
Okay.
She was asking is if it has to be through a blood transfusion or it can be absorbed through the skin in a sauna. So this is the thing. It's been almost inaccessible, that it's way expensive. A lot of the technology has also been repressed. You can get it rectally that goes systemic. So you do not have to do, it's the same thing as getting the blood transfusion. You also can take it, plug it into your portable sauna, and you can get it through the skin. So she teaches you all of the different routes. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for bringing that. Yep. Someone's calling you a rock star. Literally, right? Okay, let's see. Looks like we have an announcement. There is the big, we have a very big dowsing conference in Flagstaff this fall in October. So, yeah, we invite people to come, and maybe that's something that you'd be interested in too. I know we talked a little bit about your dowsing. One of many things that we add to our repertoire. So, all right. Well, I thank you all. I'm going to stop our recording and stay tuned. We'll see you next time.
And then if anybody has more questions,